In my past life, my sister schemed to have a loafer, poor and lazy, violate me, just so she could snatch the only spot for a sent-down youth to return to the city, leaving me no choice but to marry him and stay in the mountain village. Who could have known that the loafer would seize the opportunity, found a food factory, and become a private entrepreneur worth hundreds of billions? He was also devoted to his wife to the point of worship. After being reborn, my sister got there before me and climbed into the loafer's bed. You're on guard against me every day, afraid I'll steal someone away. I let out a cold laugh, and I was really looking forward to seeing her reaction when she discovered that I was the one who truly founded the food factory. Your sister has already promised you to me. From now on, you're my wife, so don't even think about going back to the city. This was the first sentence I heard after my rebirth. Zhang Taizhu, my husband in my previous life, was grinning lewdly as he reached out his claws toward me, trying to tear off my clothes. I quickly calmed myself. I had returned to early 1978, when the sent-down youths were returning to the city in large numbers, in order to secure the only spot to return to the city. Zhang Xiuxiu found Zhang Taizhu, the ugly and lazy loafer from the village, to ambush me on the road, drag me into a haystack, and defile me, and my own older sister brought the village cadres over and caught us in the act. For the sake of my reputation, I was forced to marry Zhang Taizhu, and I also lost my eligibility to return to the city. Becoming a rural woman, a wave of fear washed over me, and I fought back desperately. I absolutely could not repeat the fate of my previous life, still dare to run. Zhang Taizhu slapped me across the face. The force was so great that my head buzzed. However, in the next moment, Zhang Taizhu, who was pressing down on me, was tackled to the ground by someone. Brother Zhuzi, it was Zhang Xiuxiu. Tears welled in her eyes. Don't you want Xiuxiu anymore? I felt dizzy and dazed, but she turned to look at me, flashing a smug smile. Brother Zhuzi is mine, and so is the future Mrs. Zheng. So, it turned out that she had also been reborn. A woman took the initiative to throw herself into his arms. How could Zhang Taizhu refuse? The two of them were like fire meeting dry tinder, and they rolled straight into the haystack. Listening to the unbearable sounds, I endured my dizziness and quickly got up to leave. Because the village cadres Zhang Xiuxiu had led over were almost here, by the time the village cadres arrived, the two of them still hadn't finished their affair. Zhang Xiuxiu seemed afraid that others wouldn't know they were having an affair, and she cried out loudly, making the village cadres' faces turn pale with anger. Within half a day, the news that Zhang Taizhu had slept with Zhang Xiuxiu had spread throughout the village. I pretended to come out of the room and happened to overhear the women gathered at the village entrance whispering about the matter. Who would have thought she could be so promiscuous? Zhuzi told everyone he met that Comrade Zheng had taken a liking to him and had slept with him willingly, and he was so smug about it. When they saw me, the women awkwardly fell silent, but they couldn't help asking curiously, Comrade Xiaozheng, your sister isn't going back to the city anymore, is she really going to marry Zhuzi? Yes, I sneered, my sister likes Taizhu so much she's crazy about him, and she'd live or die for him. She's dead set on marrying him. Wouldn't that just make it easier for you? There was only one spot in the last batch for returning to the city. It was either me or her. In my previous life, after I was defiled by Zhang Taizhu, she, as my older sister, decided on my behalf to marry me off to him. I wanted to run, but she personally led people to tie me up in the pigsty. If you run off, how am I supposed to go back? Be good and marry Zhang Taizhu. Anyway, you're a ruined woman, and someone like him, a dirt-poor peasant, is the perfect match for you. In 1978, things weren't open enough yet. Being caught in something like this was a huge scandal. The village officials were afraid I would run away and that the disgrace would leak out and ruin their prospects, so they actually covered up the truth that I had been defiled. They directly gave the spot to return to the city to Zhang Xiuxiu. While locking me up in the village, I was kept confined for a full 6 months, with village cadres sending people to watch me day and night. Those men didn't just watch me, they also put their hands on me and groped me. What are you putting on airs for? Let me, too, have a taste of what it's like to be an educated youth. Of course I refused. At first, they still knew how to restrain themselves. In the end, they didn't care anymore and were going to force themselves on me. Ridiculous how the gossipy women in the village didn't know how to keep their own men in check, yet instead blamed me for seducing them. No one knew how much humiliation I had endured to gain the freedom to live on. I pretended to accept my fate and stopped causing a fuss. Only after I married Zhang Taizhu was I finally released and freed from those days of being imprisoned. As for Zhang Xiuxiu, she got her wish and returned to the city, got a job at the biscuit factory with a government paycheck, and even married the factory director. Her life was flourishing. Who knew that not long after, reform and opening up began, state-owned enterprises were privatized, Zhang Xiuxiu lost her job and was laid off, and the couple was lazy and indulgent. Soon they squandered away the family fortune. On the other hand, Zhang Taizhu seized the wave of the times, took over a food factory, and processed local specialties. The business kept growing bigger and bigger, and factories were opened all over the country. He even became a billionaire entrepreneur, a national model, and was featured in the newspapers. Once he had money, the poor relatives all came flocking in. Relatives I had never seen while I was living in the mountain village all swarmed over one after another. Zhang Xiuxiu was one of them. "Brother Zhu, do you still remember me?" she said in an affected tone. "I'm Xiuxiu." Zhang Taizhu was lecherous, and when he saw Zhang Xiuxiu, who still had a bit of beauty, he was so smitten he could hardly walk. The two of them hid in the bathroom and started fooling around. I caught them in the act. Zhang Xiuxiu leaned against Zhang Taizhu's chest, looking coy and bashful like a little woman, and flaunted it to me. "Ling Ling, Brother Zhuzi said you're a block of wood and wants to divorce you so he can marry me." I looked at Zhang Taizhu with a cold smile. "Oh, really?" Zhang Taizhu shuddered and immediately shook off her hand. "You came to my door offering yourself to me, and now you still want to latch on to me." I snorted in disdain and humiliated her. My sister really doesn't let her brother-in-law get the short end of the stick. Her foolish attempt to seduce her brother-in-law spread everywhere, and even her own husband no longer wanted her, driving her out of the house. The last time I saw Zhang Xiuxiu, she was already a beggar living on the streets. As for me, I stepped out of a Rolls-Royce wearing a fur coat and didn't even spare her a glance. Zhang Xiuxiu cursed me with red-rimmed eyes. "Zhang Lingling, don't think you've already won. I'm going to take Brother Zhuzi away." It now seems that her wish has come true. Hey, Zhang Xiuxiu thought she was going to marry a future billionaire entrepreneur, and she was so delighted that she could hardly stop grinning. She dressed up flamboyantly every day and stuck close to Zhao Taizhu, completely ignoring the gossip in the village. The village cadres came to us and said, "Comrade Zhang, are you really going to marry Taizhu and not go back to the city?" Of course I'm not going back. If I did, wouldn't I have to be separated from Brother Zhuzi? Then this return to city spot will go to Comrade Xiao Zhong. Zhang Xiuxiu shot me a disgusted glance. "Give it to her." The village cadre signed the paperwork, and most of the weight on my heart finally lifted. My eyes even began to well up slowly. This time, I finally changed my own destiny. In my previous life, in order to make something of myself, I borrowed money to set up a factory and suffered through countless hardships before expanding the food plant. The 100 billion fortune that Zhang Xiuxiu coveted had always been under my name, and the braised delicacies recipe that became wildly popular across the country and was exported around the world had always been in my hands. However, the other bosses couldn't beat me fairly and squarely, so they actually had someone poison me. What's funny is that they looked down on women and even thought Zhang Taizhu was the factory owner, so they put all the poison into him. After Zhang Taizhu was rescued with half his life gone, I actually discovered his usefulness and went with the flow, keeping him around as a shield. How could Zhang Taizhu dare to get a divorce? My legal team can make sure he doesn't get a single cent. As long as I use him, he gets to live a good life, so he didn't dare defy me. Ironically, Zhang Xiuxiu thought marrying Zhang Taizhu would lead to a good life, and now she's so proud she looks down on me as a poor relative. "What's the point of going back?" she muttered disdainfully. "I'd still end up working in a factory as a female worker. I'm going to be Mrs. Zhang in the future, destined for great fortune." "Yeah," I echoed without emotion. "Sis, your good fortune is still ahead of you." Just as Zhang Xiuxiu said, without money or influence, even if I returned to the city, I'd only be assigned to work as a production line female worker in a factory. I wasn't going to live like that. I bought some ingredients, secretly made a batch of braised snacks, then borrowed a 28-inch bicycle to go to the town bookstore to buy materials for the college entrance exam. In my past life, I started a business and suffered from being uneducated, taking many wrong turns, so I never let go of learning throughout my life. Now that the college entrance exam has finally been reinstated, this time I'm absolutely going to get into university and win at the starting line. Unexpectedly, just as I reached the village entrance, I was stopped by 3 or 5 men, all idle bachelor loafers from the village. Leading the group was Zhang Taizhu. He stopped me with a grin, his lecherous eyes sizing me up and down. Lingling, where are you going? I stepped back warily, putting some distance between us. What are you doing? Of course it's a good thing. Look, your sister's already found someone, and you're still single. I'm going to be your brother-in-law soon. How could I not be worried about you? He pointed at the loafers behind him. These are all your brother-in-law's good brothers, every one of them a loyal, street-smart boss. They want to get to know you and maybe date you. Why don't you get to know them? After saying that, he leaned close to me, winking and nudging me as he whispered, of course, if you like your brother-in-law better, you don't have to hide it. I'm not incapable of showing you some care either. I was disgusted beyond words. He'd been so flattered by Zhong Xiuxiu that he no longer knew north from south, and really thought he was something special, that all women liked him. Move aside, I said coldly. They didn't take me seriously at all, and instead kept inching closer. Don't be like that, Comrade Zheng, come play with us, will you? Don't call her Comrade Zheng, that sounds so distant, call her Little Lingling. I wasn't too panicked. I knew Zhong Xiuxiu all too well. Before I had even gone back, she definitely wouldn't trust Zhang Taizhu to have contact with me alone. I looked around and sure enough, spotted Zhong Xiuxiu not far away. I immediately shouted loudly, sis, brother. Zhuzi wants me to play with him. Zhong Xiuxiu rushed over like the wind, pushed me aside, and linked arms with Zhang Taizhu herself, scolding, get lost, stop hanging around in front of your brother-in-law. I sneered coldly. Only she would treat that rotten fish like a treasure. Zhang Taizhu proudly boasted to her, I'm introducing a match to Lingling. As soon as Zhong Xiuxiu heard that, her face paled a few shades. If I really got into a relationship with these people, wouldn't that mean I'd have to stay in the village? Then wouldn't I run into Zhang Tizheng all the time? What if I ended up seducing Zhang Tizheng away and snatching away her good fortune? How could Zhong Xiuxiu possibly dare let me get involved with Zhang Tizheng's good brothers? She quickly found an excuse to send me away. I wish I could just ignore them and ride away quickly, but I didn't go directly to the bookstore. Instead, I went to the food factory first. Since I've been reborn, wouldn't it be foolish to chase after a man instead of seizing the opportunities of the times? The college entrance exam hasn't been restored for long, and review materials are scarce and expensive. The wages of educated youth are already low, and in the past, I was foolish enough to let Zhong Xiuxiu swindle a lot of it away. I couldn't afford to buy books at all. The top priority was to get money so I could afford to go to school. The old director of the food factory knew me. Smiling, he asked, Comrade Zheng, what can I do for you, director? I have a braised food recipe I'd like to show you. I got straight to the point. The director was busy all day and had no time to listen to my nonsense. This is the braised food made according to the recipe. Although he was no longer young, he had a sharp eye and strong connections, and had long since sensed the signs that reform was coming. In my previous life, it was he who, deliberately or not, helped me take over factories and do processing. You could say he was my patron. It was also this secret recipe that allowed me to create a miracle in the food industry. But this time, I did not plan to walk the old path again. It was too bitter, and I did not have the time. I want to read. Factory manager Jiao tasted the braised food I made, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. This, I said confidently. Manager, I want to sell the recipe to you. With the recipe, you can produce and process it yourself. Factory manager Jiao thought for a moment. What price are you planning to ask for? It's free. Factory director Zhao exclaimed in surprise. Little Zheng, you, don't joke with an old comrade like me. I'm not joking, I said calmly. I can do it for free, but I want a share in the business. No one knows better than I do just how much money this recipe for braised delicacies can ultimately bring in. Besides, I have more than just this one recipe in hand. If I'm going to win, I have to win at the starting line. Although he didn't want to take money, factory director Zhao couldn't rest easy and still gave me 1,000 yuan. I tucked the money away, bought the books, and headed back. Zhang Taizhu was still wandering around the village entrance. When he saw me come back, his eyes lit up. No doubt, he's waiting for me, I sneered coldly, a plan forming in my mind. These two pests, him and Zhong Xiuxiu, I'm not planning to keep them around for the winter. I must deal with them before I return to the city. So, I pretended to almost fall off my bike, and the cloth bag I was carrying fell out, revealing the 100 yuan bills inside. Zhang Taizhu stared with wide eyes. He murmured, reaching out to take it, "Goodness, I've never seen so much money in my life." I didn't stop him. "This money was sent by my parents in the city, saying it's for you and my sister's wedding." "Then I'll take it," he exclaimed with joy, grabbing the money and hurrying off to find Zhang Xiuxiu. "Wait," I quickly grabbed him, "you haven't registered with my sister yet, so I can't give you this money." Zhang Tizhu's eyes darted around. "I'll go find the village secretary to write up the registration for me right now." Watching his retreating figure, I snorted coldly. For money, he would do anything, but this brainless fool, does he even know that robbery is a crime that lands you in jail? Look, this is what happens when you lack education. Sure enough, Zhang Taizhu didn't mention that the money came from my parents after receiving it. He simply deceived Zhang Xiuxiu by claiming he had earned a fortune himself. With just a few words, he tricked Zhang Xiuxiu into willingly marrying him. Zhang Taizhu felt at ease now and took her shopping in town. Zhang Xiuxiu was thrilled. I always knew Brother Zhuzi was no ordinary person. He'll make even more money in the future. The two of them had no reservations, and Zhang Xiuxiu was even more determined to show off. She knew that the gossips in the village said behind her back that she was blind for liking Zhang Taizhu, and she wanted everyone to know that she was doing better than anyone else. I waited for them to leave, gathered my emotions for a moment, and then went to the village cadres with red eyes. "Zhang Taizhu stole my money. How much did he take?" I burst into tears instantly. "They stole almost 1,000 from me." "How much?" The village cadre stood up excitedly upon hearing this, his voice cracking. This was 1978, and some people had never seen 1,000 yuan in their entire lives. I heard that when Zhang Taizhu and Zhang Xiuxiu were caught and brought back, they were in town buying a television. Back in those days, televisions were rare items, not something just anyone could buy. You had to have the right qualifications. The clerk refused to sell it to them, so Zhang Xiuxiu threatened, "Do you know who Brother Zhuzi is? He's going to be a billionaire entrepreneur in the future." The clerk rolled his eyes. She was still trying to show off when she got caught, which was quite embarrassing. When they came back and heard that I had reported them, both of them were dumbfounded. Zhang Taizhu shouted, "Ling Ling, didn't you say this was the money your parents sent for your sister's wedding?" Zhang Xiuxiu exclaimed in surprise. "What? This is the money my parents sent, so you lied to me." The two of them started arguing, making as much noise as 200 ducks. I can't be bothered to listen. I just said to the village cadres, "Director Zhao can vouch for me. The money was his support for my education." Director Zhao hurried over after receiving the village cadre's call to vouch for me. With him here, who would dare to question further? He asked me cheerfully, "So, how do you want to deal with them?" "Call the police," I said without hesitation. "Let the officers handle it." Zhang Xiuxiu looked at me in disbelief. "You're lying, aren't you? Where did you get so much money? Why would the factory manager give you that much?" "Zhang Lingling, you didn't go sleep with some old man, did you?" Looking at her furious and embarrassed expression, I deeply doubted whether she really shared the same parents as me. Robbery, and then selling the stolen goods together. I leaned close to Zhang Xiuxiu's ear and whispered with a laugh, "Sister, don't make me angry again, or else, believe it or not, I'll make sure you rot in prison." Zhang Xiuxiu widened her eyes and froze in place. For a long time, she stammered and asked, You are also reborn." I looked innocent. "What are you talking about?" She grabbed my hand hard, her eyes red, and shouted, "It must be you. You stole Brother Zhu's recipe. Zhang Lingling, you stole my money." Unfortunately, no one cared at all what she was saying. They only see me cowering in the corner, as if I'm terrified of Zhang Xiuxiu. This clearly shows that she often bullies, hits, and scolds me. Otherwise, why would I be afraid of her? Factory director Zhao cursed angrily. What a vicious woman, abusing her own sister and even stealing money. Me, I wasn't actually being abused, I was just pretending. People later called this kind of behavior green tea, but honestly, it really worked. After this incident, I sped up my plans to return to the city. Factory director Zhao treated me like a treasure, hoping I could develop more delicious braised dishes. Afraid that something else might happen to me, he pulled some strings to send me away from this cannibalistic village as soon as possible. After many years, I finally returned to the city where I grew up. My parents came to pick me up, but I felt no affection for them. In my previous life, when I was imprisoned, my parents found out. However, they were afraid that I would drag them down and ruin the good life they had finally managed to rebuild. So they never once came to see me. Instead, They sent me a household removal document, directly severing ties with me and leaving me to fend for myself. It also dashed my last bit of hope. They were my parents, so why didn't they come to save me? Unfortunately, in my previous life, before I could reunite with them, they had already been angered to death by Zhong Xiuxiu. After Zhong Xiuxiu was laid off and had no money, she came back and snatched their life savings to squander. The elderly couple, already in poor health after enduring great hardships, fell ill from the anger and had no money for treatment, ultimately dying in their home. They truly deserved it. I don't want to live with my parents. I clearly know what the future will become, but the present is different from the future. Once labeled as unfilial, there will be no chance to develop properly anymore. For the sake of the future, even with parents like these, I have to endure. When they saw me, they immediately teared up and hugged me. Lingling, we finally get to see you. They didn't even ask about Zhong Xiuxiu, probably because in my previous life, when they picked up Zhong Xiuxiu, they ignored me in the same way. Your mom and I have already arranged everything for you. My dad patted my shoulder with relief. We'll send you to the biscuit factory in a couple of days. Your Uncle Wu's son is the director there, so he can look after you. I'm not going. I frowned. I want to take the college entrance exam. What nonsense. My dad frowned and was about to scold me. You don't even look at how old you are. If you don't get married, do you want your mom and me to be laughed to death by the neighbors? I sneered. All they ever cared about was their own face. I had made up my mind to keep studying, so of course I wasn't going to any biscuit factory. My mom burst into tears and snot, crying to me, Lingling, you're our only daughter left. Believe Mom, we won't make you suffer. Wu Jun's family is rich. If you marry into it, you'll have a good life. Like hell, I believe you. Thankfully, there are quite a few people as clear-headed as I am. There are plenty of resources in the city, even cram schools. I enrolled in classes and went there every day to study, only going home at night to sleep for a while. Once the exams are over, I'll leave this home forever. However, I never imagined that they would completely ignore my wishes and just marry me off. The days in August were oppressively hot. I went to the supply and marketing store to make a phone call to Director Zhao, and he was practically beside himself with excitement on the other end of the line. Comrade Xiao Zhong, I've gotten wind of it. Just as you said, reform and opening up really is going to happen. Good times for the common people are not far off. I smiled. Director Zhao asked again, after you get into university, are you going to keep researching food-related fields? No, I had already planned out my future. Even with reform and opening up, the road for domestic companies would still be difficult. This time, I didn't want to become one of them, struggling to grow. I wanted to be the one who helped them. That was probably the greatest meaning of my rebirth and seizing the early opportunity. When I came back, I saw Wu Jun sitting at my house. He was Zhong Xiuxiu's husband in her previous life, with slicked back hair and a jacket on. He looked ridiculously flashy. When he saw me, he first sized me up from head to toe, then said lewdly, so this is Sister Lingling, you're really pretty and delicate. Not only him, but Wu Jun's parents were also there. I frowned. What's going on here? My mom said with a smile, Xiao Wu came to see you. Why are you just standing there? Hurry and sit over there. It's time to eat. This was basically a blind date. I ate in silence. None of them cared about me. And in just a few words they had already set the date for my wedding to Wu Jun. Everyone was very happy, as if I were just an object and there was no need to ask for my opinion on how to deal with me. After wiping my mouth, I put down my bowl and chopsticks and said solemnly, I will not marry Wu Jun. In an instant, the surroundings fell into a deathly silence. If I backed down here, then once I walked out that door, everyone outside would probably think Wu Jun and I were a couple. Rumors spread from a single mouth, while refuting them takes a broken pair of legs. In matters like this, it's always the girls who suffer. My open defiance enraged Dad. I had challenged his authority in this family, which was simply unforgivable. He grabbed the bowl beside him and hurled it at me. I barely dodged it, and the porcelain bowl smashed to pieces on the floor. Zhong Lingling, I'm your father, whether you marry or not, and who you marry, I have the final say. Just then, the postman knocked on my door. Is this Zhong Lingling's home? He shouted loudly inside. Zhong Lingling, you've got a notice here, your admission letter from Peking University. The silence in the room was even heavier than before. I calmly stood up, signed for the notice, and handed the postman the red envelope I had prepared long ago. Thanks for your hard work. Lingling got into university. Wu Jun's parents panicked. Then she'll be going to school Right away, before she leaves, let's get the marriage settled, that way she won't be deceived by some bad man out there. Outside, there aren't only bad men, but also more outstanding men, I said with pointed meaning. If someone can go to Peking University, how could they be mediocre? They're all top-tier talents. Once they graduate, they'll definitely be above the little supervisor at the biscuit factory. Just one sentence made Wu Jun's parents' faces turn dark. However, my dad, who had just been furious, had calmed down. Seeing him silently weighing the pros and cons, I added fuel to the fire. Maybe I'll even run into some of the children from the compound. Sure enough, my dad and the others wanted to use me to get more benefits, so they politely sent Wu Jun's family away. Just got accepted and you're already putting on airs. Who knows if you'll even make it in? Wu Jun's father muttered curses, his gaze at me full of malice. Not only that, he also gave my mom a warning glance. My mom timidly averted her gaze and didn't dare meet his eyes. I raised an eyebrow. So he was trying to stir up trouble. How could I not oblige him? The mailman came to my house, and so many people saw it. Everyone was crowded into one big courtyard, and neighbors from both sides came to offer congratulations. My dad was flattered and delighted, and immediately wanted to hold a banquet and treat the guests. Ling Ling, go buy some cooked food and bring it back. My mom sent me out on an errand. Avoiding my gaze and not looking at me directly, I looked at the sky outside, which was gradually darkening, smiled, and agreed. Sure enough, after I came back with the cooked food I'd bought, Wu Jun, who had been hiding in the alley, rushed out and knocked me to the ground in one swoop. What are you doing? What do you think I'm doing? He sneered. I'm going to be the groom today. I'm going to sleep with you and see if you still dare look down on me in the future. As he spoke, he started pulling off my clothes. Do you know that doing this is illegal? I looked at him with a cold smile. Illegal my ass. Your damn parents already promised you to me, and they told me to do this, Wu Jun shouted. Sleeping with my own wife is only natural. I let out a cold snort. He probably didn't know that in my previous life, in order to guard against others trying to hurt me, I had been practicing karate all along. The me now could flip him over with a single hand. Using a clever burst of force, I pinned Wu Jun firmly to the ground. He was a grown man, yet all he had been was subdued, and he screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Does it hurt that much? Wu Jun was wailing like someone in mourning, and he had even alerted all the neighbors. They saw him lying on the ground, unable to get up no matter how hard he tried. While I was huddled in the corner, my clothes and hair both in disarray, it was obvious he had ill intentions toward me. Oh dear, this. My mom instinctively looked at my dad. Why did Wu Jun fall over? Ling Ling, if you young couple are sneaking off to get affectionate, at least be a little more discreet. Good grief, she'd basically turned a blatant scheme into a young couple getting cozy, for the sake of his own pride. My dad actually went along with it anyway. The neighbors on both sides were watching. I was already in this situation. What else could I do? I can only marry Wu Jun. I wiped away my tears and stood up with a face full of grievance. Dad, Mom, I said I won't marry him, just to force me. You actually had Wu Jun come here to coerce me. Is that how parents are supposed to act? The people around us immediately started whispering, thoroughly enjoying the drama. I didn't care about saving face. I just wanted to make a scene. Only then could I break free from this family. You, what are you talking about? My mom's face turned red with embarrassment, but today, Wu Jun and the others storming out while cursing was something everyone could see. Seeing this, I flopped straight onto the ground and started screaming and throwing a fit. I'm not living anymore. I'm done. My own parents want to sell their daughter for money, and they can even come up with such a shameless idea. They want to let some wild man sleep with their own daughter. I'm not living anymore. After saying that, I got up from the ground and charged straight into Wu Jun. Damn you, I'll drag you down with me. I'd rather die than marry you. Just kidding. After all these years in the countryside, I've seen God knows how many women throw tantrums. Messing with you guys, that's nothing. I went straight for the sore spot, and Wu Jun let out an ow, and convulsed once before actually passing out. After quite a commotion, Wu Jun was carried into the hospital. Only then did I learn that when I had pinned him to the ground, his vital area had been pressed against a sharp stone, tearing that bit of flesh into a bloody mess. His parents and my parents were outside the ward, snarling at each other like dogs, each trying to shirk responsibility. If anything happens to Wu Jun, his father shouted, I want your daughter Zhong Lingling to compensate him for the rest of her life. He was afraid that Wu Jun would have his manhood ruined and that no woman would want him anymore. So he wanted to drag me down with him. As we were talking, I arrived with 2 uniformed police officers, Woo Jun and his family, together with my parents, attempted to commit indecent acts against me. As soon as the words left my mouth, everyone was stunned, staring at me in disbelief with their eyes wide open, probably never expecting that I would actually call the police. The evidence is ironclad. I'm not only going to get Woo Jun locked up, I'm going to get my parents locked up too. There's no way they can scheme against me to this extent and I'm still supposed to forgive them, right? That wouldn't be human. That would be a saint. As expected, Woo Jun's manhood was ruined, and he turned around to claim that I was the one who broke it. But I was acting in self-defense. If they made a scene, I'd come with my lawyer, determined to get them all sent in together. Only then did my parents finally get scared. My mom knelt in front of me and cried, "Lingling, I'm your mother. Are you really going to treat your mom like this?" "Mom," I said calmly, "you haven't seen your daughter yet, have you? She's serving her sentence at the quarry. I'll find a way to send you there too, so she can be reunited with you. As for Dad, I'm afraid there's nothing I can do." My mother collapsed to the ground, completely limp. Unfortunately, the 2 of them only went in for a few years before overworking themselves to death inside. Once everything had settled, Factory Director Zhao came to pick me up. The lawyer was someone I asked him to find, and he had helped me a great deal. "I've moved your household registration out for you." He handed me the brand new household register. From then on, my household registration was clean and clear, with only me on it. I no longer had to fear anyone coming to threaten me or drag me down. "You were really brave. Something so big happened and you still didn't contact me," Director Zhao said with lingering fear. "You're a woman. If your reputation were ruined, how could you go on? If you don't care, these things aren't worth anything." I glanced over the crowd on the street and said slowly, "I don't have to make a living under their gossip, so of course I don't care what they say. It's just a pity that it would take many years before women comrades could live for themselves." My gaze slipped past the crowd and looked farther away. At the end of the year, reform and opening up indeed began. The old iron rice bowls had all disappeared, workers were laid off, and state-run enterprises became private companies. Fortunately, before all this, my sister and parents had arranged another iron rice bowl for themselves. Factory Director Zhao and I were well prepared, taking in many laid-off workers and providing them with jobs. This is also one of the reasons I didn't want money. I had shares in the factory, so I had a say. Factory Director Zhao praised me with a smile. "Comrade Xiaozhong, you really are a college graduate, far-sighted. The workers don't even dare to ask for a wage increase, and we've saved quite a bit of money." I smiled. Wanting to take advantage of cheap bargains was true, but wanting to help them was true too. When you're stuck in the mire, everyone hopes someone will pull them up. I gradually let go of the braising spice recipe in my hands, leaving everything entirely to Factory Director Zhao to handle. By the time I graduated, the food factory had already become famous nationwide, and this had happened a full 10 years earlier than in my previous life, so it had taken me 10 years to climb out of the pit Zhang Xiuxiu had dug for me when I fell in. Factory Director Zhao had grown old and wanted to retire and hand his position over to his son, so when he came to bring me my dividend, he also brought brother Zhao along to see me. Seeing that I was still living in the old courtyard house, he frowned slightly. "Xiaozhong, you're already so rich, why are you still living in this shabby place?" Brother Zhao was kind-hearted and immediately said in a big spender tone, "Dad, why don't we buy a house for Sister Zhong?" I was at a loss for words. I couldn't very well tell him that in a few years, this courtyard house would be worth over 100 million yuan. Moreover, I really don't have much money on hand. The dividends these past years have been substantial, but I've put them all into investments. I don't want to keep working at the food factory, so I registered a small company of my own. There are 3 colleagues, all of them my college roommates. Some of them fought desperately to escape families that favored sons over daughters, while others were only there to get a college diploma as a bit of gold plating so they could find a capable man to marry, no matter who it is. After listening to my ideas from decades later for 4 years, it's impossible not to be influenced, so when I decided to start a business, they all came with me. I couldn't have asked for more. They're all Peking University students, all talented people. In the future, it will be a war for talent. With the dividends in hand, we went around investing everywhere. With me around, it's hard to lose money. In the future market, the most profitable business will be real estate. So put the bulk of your money into real estate. It doesn't matter If you're not making much now, there will come a time when you'll have so much money you won't be able to count it. Those entrepreneurs affectionately call me an angel investor. This time, I didn't look for anyone to act as my shield. I didn't come forward at all. I stayed in the shadows and played the role of my little rich lady. I understand all too well the importance of keeping a low profile. Sometimes, living better than others is a sin. In the 1980s and 1990s, television began to become widespread. At my suggestion, Brother Zhao also placed the Food Factory's ads on TV. It was a bit expensive, but the results were good. The braised delicacies even made it onto the banquet table of the state dinner. This was my original intention. I hope it can always remain good. At the same time, the opening of the country's doors also brought in those ambitious foreigners. Ling, something happened at the food factory, a coworker said. There's a food factory invested in by a foreigner. Going around saying our braised snacks are pickled products and that they're carcinogenic. Bullshit. You'd have a better chance of getting cancer from eating pickled vegetables every day. Still possible. Only then did I realize I had been careless. In my previous life, I got off to a late start and had a rough time. It took me more than a decade of hard work and struggle to reach the scale I have now. Back then, in the eyes of those foreigners, I was nothing more than an inconspicuous nobody. What they had their eyes on were the old brands passed down through generation after generation. Braised foods cause cancer, MSG causes cancer. They spread these rumors, then used their products to gradually replace ours. The food factory has been having a hard time lately. Sales are at the bottom, and they still have to pay the workers' wages. Mr. Zhao couldn't hold out any longer and accepted their investment. I stood up abruptly. You can't accept the investment. Once there's investment, there's also influence, and the food factory will fall into someone else's hands. Those robbers snatched our things away so easily like that. By the time Brother Zhao reacted, it was already too late. He immediately regretted it. He never expected the foreigner to sue him directly for breach of contract. Without even holding a trial, they locked him up for investigation. The food factory had enjoyed its glory for so many years that too many people were jealous, and there were always more people who kicked someone when they were down, then sue them. Factory director Lao Zhao said, refusing to back down, that food factory was built through all my years of working from dawn to dusk and sweating blood and tears. How could I just hand it over to them? His hair had all turned white, but his face still showed that same unwilling to lose expression. In my previous life, it was this old man who influenced me to keep fighting, refusing to lose as I climbed upward. As long as he still had a breath left in him, he would never bow his head and beg anyone. All I could do was stay by his side to gather evidence and accompany him through the lawsuit. The lawyer told me that the chances of winning were slim, and Brother Zhao was afraid he would have to go to prison. What about these? I took out my share certificate. The food factory then and now is the fruit of our shared labor. Ms. Zheng, the lawyer looked serious. This is going to be a long battle. They have a lot of money, and I'm afraid we won't be able to hold out that long. To snag the food factory at a low price, they spread rumors and found a lot of people to pretend to be victims of the braised food business. The factory had long been operating at a loss. But money, I said lightly, I have plenty. I happily went to tell the old factory director that the food factory was saved. He had grown old and was sitting across the road waiting for me. He was clearly still waving at me. Ling, walk a little slower, watch out for cars. But the next second, a large truck came barreling toward him. For a split second, my mind went completely blank. Uncle Zhao. I sprinted over and held the old man in the pool of blood, so panicked that I couldn't say a word. Uncle Ling. The old man's increasingly clouded eyes fixed tightly on me. Before he could finish a single sentence, he lost all his strength and collapsed. He wasn't able to save him. With the plaintiff dead, the lawsuit would also come to nothing. If you can't solve the problem, solve the person who caused the problem. That was their policy. That foreigner even came to the old factory director's funeral to pay his respects, saying, I had already tried to talk him out of it. He looked at me, his smile mocking and brazen. I stared at him intently, and finally understood one thing: a person must be strong enough that others don't dare to bully them. You can't escape it. The foreigners all thought that once Brother Zhao and the old factory director were dealt with, the food factory would definitely fall into his hands, but he didn't expect that I still held more than half of the shares. Not to mention, I had money. I didn't go head-to-head with him. Instead, I chose another path. I targeted his company and started providing free catering to funeral parlors everywhere, specifically ordering food from their food factory. The foreigners thought they had landed a huge order and were about to capture the domestic food market, and they were very pleased with themselves. Over time, the foreigners' food factory became synonymous with funeral homes. We need not say much about how taboo we find these things. Ordinary people would never buy their food again, and only the dead would eat their meals. The look of disbelief on that foreigner's face when he was going through bankruptcy liquidation was a real pleasure to see. I should have done this long ago. Not just them. Across the country, all kinds of domestic brands and local enterprises are also suffering such blows under the assault of capital. They have all disappeared one by one. They are the next food factory. I don't want to stay hidden in the background anymore. I looked at my colleagues, my fellow adventurers, and spoke the deepest thought in my heart. I want to save the next food factory. Many food factories. They don't necessarily have to be a food factory. It could also be a milk factory, a MSG factory, or a shampoo factory. When one prospers, one should help the world. The future investments under my name have that kind of strength. However, doing this really has taken a big bite out of someone else's cake. Even more dangerous than in my previous life. If one foreigner fell, there were still others with ulterior motives. Some even among the top executives of domestic companies took the initiative to seek out foreigners, begging to cooperate with them and handing over the things our ancestors left behind on a silver platter. They always seemed to think the moon was rounder abroad. What's the difference between that and a traitor? I can only get there before them, invest ahead of them, and save as many as I can. Gradually, my reputation grew bigger and bigger. More and more people came to me to invest in their state-owned enterprises. They all say that the female boss of future investment is a kind-hearted goddess. How could I possibly deserve such a title? I'm only doing the same things the old factory director did. Only at this point did those foreigners with ulterior motives realize that the real enemy they had to deal with was me, but I had long since grown into someone difficult for them to deal with. The brother Zhao was locked up in prison for nearly 2 years before he was released. The lawsuit dragged on for so long, and at last, his innocence could finally be restored. His weathered face was full of anguish. Before he could even say a word to me, tears had already started to fall. It was too bitter to protect his own business. He even paid with his old father's life. Ling Ling, he patted my shoulder just like his father had. My dad is gone now. From now on, you're my little sister, and your big brother will take care of you. I nodded hard. I was hosting a welcome dinner for him, but unexpectedly, I saw someone familiar. Zhang Xiuxiu. I put in some effort. So back then she was sentenced very harshly. 20 years have passed, and now she's finally been released. Heavy powder was caked on the face she had always been proud of, and she was hooking her arm through an older man's, acting coquettishly. Brother Zhang, just trust me this once. Our brother Zhuzi really is a genius at braised dishes. Even now, she still believes Zhang Taizhu can help her get rich. How could there be such a ridiculous person? When I walked past her in high heels, she didn't even recognize me. Ms. Zhang, Mr. Zhao. It was Boss Zhang who recognized us first. You're here for dinner too. Zhang Xiuxiu stared at me for a long moment before finally recognizing me. It's you, she shrieked, as if she were about to lunge at me and scratch me. You thief, you stole my money, and you stole Brother Zhuzi's food factory. What nonsense are you talking about? Boss Zhang hurriedly pushed her aside. Mrs. Zhang is our domestic goods goddess of mercy. That food factory belongs to Mr. Zhao. Ms. Zhang, when will you consider investing in our chemical factory too? I smiled and said, didn't Mr. Zhang already get in touch with foreigners to buy it up? I wouldn't bother with a traitor like that. Someone who wants to have it both ways, with one foot in the bowl and the other in the pot. However, I didn't notice the murderous look in Mr. Zhang's eyes. What the hell? Zhang Xiuxiu leaned over. Brother Zhang, my little sister, is she that impressive? Boss Zhang raised an eyebrow. Zhang Lingling is your sister, of course. My biological little sister. Boss Zhang chuckled twice. Want me to introduce you to a big boss from overseas who can help you and your husband get rich. But you'll have to do one thing for me first. Zhang Xiuxiu suddenly showed up at the door. She was wearing a leopard print coat, carrying an Hermes bag, and wearing a thick gold chain, as if she wanted everyone to know she was rich. There was no need to think about it. This money must have come from some shady source. How did you find my home, Ling Ling? She looked ingratiating. I'm here to talk business with you. There's a big deal I want to do with you. Without thinking, I closed the door. Hey, don't. She shouldered the door and forced her way in. I have nothing to discuss with you. If you don't leave, then I'll have no choice but to call the police. What do you mean by that? We haven't seen each other for 20 years, and you won't even let me say a word before kicking me out, is that it? Why don't you think about who it was that got you where you are today? It wasn't because of you. I turned and went back inside, intending to call the police, but through the glass, I saw Zhang Xiuxiu behind me suddenly pull something out of her bag and rush toward me. I'd been on guard against him all along, so I immediately turned around and grabbed her wrist. What are you doing? What am I doing? I'm just here to collect a debt you owe me, and now it's time to pay it back. She was actually holding a small kitchen knife, thrusting it hard toward me. Cold sweat poured down my face. She had worked at the quarry for so many years that her strength was terrifying. You don't know, do you? This boss has introduced me to a lot of foreigners. As long as you die, all your money will be mine, and I can even take Brother Zhuzi abroad. If I died, as my immediate family member, Zhang Xiuxiu would be able to rightfully inherit my property, so that was her plan. Unfortunately for her, she didn't know that I had already severed ties with them 20 years ago. The knife stabbed into my stomach and drew a little blood. Zhang Xiuxiu was so excited she was almost beside herself, thinking she was about to succeed. If you really do this, others will still find out that you killed me, and you'll end up back in prison. Nonsense, no one saw me come to find you. Stop trying to scare me. I let out a deep sigh. She had been locked away for these 20 years, and she had truly been cut off from all news. Although surveillance isn't that common on the market yet, I anticipated this long ago and invested and built it myself. What's installed in my house now are the latest surveillance cameras, and they've already captured every one of her words and actions. I gritted my teeth and slammed my head into hers. She was caught off guard and was sent crashing to the ground, flat on her back, enduring the pain. I grabbed a vase and hurled it at her head, knocking her out cold, and only then did I call the police. No matter what, Zhang Xiuxiu did not want to go back to prison again. There was hardly any interrogation at all before she tearfully confessed everything. It was Boss Zhang who told me to do it. He said foreigners couldn't stand Zhong Lingling. If I killed her, he would definitely take me along to get rich. They also said everything had been arranged for me, and that there was absolutely no way anyone would discover that I was the one who did it. Again, it's them. By now, I held the fate of dozens of companies in my hands. If I was determined to pursue the matter, those foreigners lurking in the shadows would be uprooted completely. I bought off several newspapers to cover it extensively. When conscientious entrepreneurs are treated like this, and the bad drives out the good, where are our country's domestic businesses supposed to go these days? Everyone on the streets and in the alleys has been talking about this matter. The matter blew up so badly that, in the end, the people above couldn't stand it anymore and invited me to the office for a chat. Mrs. Zhang, if you want justice, we will definitely severely punish those criminals. I shook my head. Justice is relative. Similarly, I can understand that bringing those foreigners into our country for development is beneficial to the economy. All I have ever tried to do is hope that our state-owned enterprises can remain safe and not be taken over by them. Then what do you want to do? I gave a smile and stated my request. When I walked out of the office, the sunlight outside was just right. Brother Zhao called me. Lingling, the first instance verdict for Zhang Xiuxiu is out. Suspended death sentence. She will never appear in front of you again for the rest of her life. I couldn't help but smile. Big brother, I no longer care what happens to her. I have already gotten what I wanted most. Those above promised to protect state-owned enterprises and support their development. In the future, we will only get better and better. One person's strength is small, but the strength of a nation is immense. I hung up the phone and looked toward the clouds, just as I had many years ago. That is the distant horizon I have always been striving toward. Have I now stood at the height I once envisioned for myself? There is just one thing that still feels regretful to me. So when exactly are smartphones going to arrive? Nowadays, PHS phones have too few features. Looks like it's time to invest in a smartphone. This really is the best of times.